Hey guys, it's Zugord here, and today we're diving deep into the origin of the Xenomorph in Alien Earth. One of the creepiest, most mysterious, and downright captivating things that this new series throws at us. And let's be real, it's been fueling fan debates for decades. Is this burning, spine-tingling question, just how much did Weyland-Yutani actually know about the infamous Xenomorph XX121? You know, that sleek, nightmare-inducing creature that became the dark, pulsating heart of the franchise? Thinking about it alone gives me chills. Ugh! Seriously, it's the kind of thought that makes you glance over your shoulder even if you're just chilling on your couch. Here's the kicker. This is not a trivial detail. Oh no! Remember, Weyland-Yutani already had a rigid, no-nonsense, ironclad protocol for these situations, the legendary Special Order 937. No sugarcoating here. Any life form discovered anywhere in the galaxy, no matter how dangerous or incomprehensible, had to be shipped straight back to Earth. Risk? Who cares? Consequences? Pfft, not their problem. Profit comes first, always. And that's precisely what makes this corporate monstrosity so chilling. Now, diving into Alien Earth, a prequel set roughly 2 years before the events of the original Alien movie, and nearly 30 decades after Prometheus, we stumble upon a revelation that will make hardcore fans drop their popcorn. Aboard the research ship USCSS Maginot, multiple alien organisms are already on board. And yes, among them lurk the dreaded xenomorphs. Yeah! Cue the collective fan freakout. How on Earth, or rather, how in space, did the corporation gain access to these monsters? At what point? Under what twisted, secretive protocol? And by what darkly ingenious methods did they manage to capture these lethal organisms? The series cunningly, or maddeningly, opts for ambiguity, leaving us dangling in suspense with no straight answers. And that's exactly where I want to pause with you. In this deep dive, I'll propose several theories, speculative, yes, but tantalizing nonetheless, that could explain how Weyland-Yutani might have had prior knowledge of the Xenomorph and why the Maginot ended up hauling not one, not two, but 5 alien species in its cargo holds. To build this puzzle, I'll lean on everything we've seen in the prequels, Prometheus and Alien Covenant, and the recurring, almost obsessive patterns of the corporation, how they manipulate crews, manipulate ships, and bend any and all protocols to serve their bottom line. But first, let's set expectations straight. These aren't official canon explanations. No, these are my personal, fan theory-fueled conjectures, carefully stitched together from the franchise timeline. Still, they fit surprisingly well when cross-referenced with the events and dates revealed in Alien Earth. So buckle up, we're diving headfirst into the shadowy depths of Weyland-Yutani's secrets. To untangle this galactic conundrum, we need to rewind the timeline a bit. Most of the critical events unfold in the Zeta Reticuli star system, a cosmic backwater where tiny celestial bodies orbit a massive gas giant named Kalpamos. Enter the Engineers, aka the Space Jockeys, that cryptic and almost godlike race that didn't just design humanity, they planted the very seeds of life on Earth itself. These towering, enigmatic beings left their signature scattered across ancient human cultures. Pictograms, carvings, cave paintings, all eerily precise markers pointing back to their home system. This is exactly why the Prometheus expedition, financed by the ambitious Peter Weyland himself, targeted this particular stellar neighborhood. Weyland, the ultimate audacious dreamer, sought the impossible, a face-to-face with humanity's creators and a shot at immortality while he's at it. Bold? Yes. Reckless? Absolutely. Entertaining for us? Hell yes.
The Prometheus saga unfolds between 2093 and early 2094, around Christmas. Ridley Scott, ever the master of subtle storytelling, sprinkled the timeline with little hints which I've dissected in past videos. Spoiler, or reminder if you've already seen it, the mission ends in spectacular disaster. Weyland perishes, the lone awakened engineer attempts to weaponize his Juggernaut ship against Earth itself. In the last-ditch heroics, the Prometheus crew crashes into him, halting potential annihilation. Only two survive, the android David and Dr. Elizabeth Shaw, escaping on another engineer ship carrying secrets too dangerous to imagine.
Their journey leads to Planet 4, a world teeming with engineers. And here, David, ever the methodical, obsessive AI, unleashes the black pathogen, a genetic accelerator also known as the xenovirus, annihilating the native population. Then, oh yes, the madness intensifies. He kills Shaw and throws himself into a relentless experiment to create alien eggs, the very blueprint of the future xenomorph nightmares. David, meticulous as ever, leaves recorded logs on the wrecked Juggernaut, carefully curating the breadcrumbs that Weyland-Yutani would eventually stumble upon. After Peter Weyland and his daughter Vickers die, Weyland Corporation falters financially, merging with Yutani to form the infamous Weyland-Yutani. Fast forward to Alien Covenant 2104. The USCSS Covenant, following Shaw's signal, lands on Planet 4, encountering new biological variants, neomorphs, and of course, David, still in full mad scientist mode. Here emerges the protomorph, a direct precursor to the xenomorph, a dark foreshadowing of Ripley's future encounters. The short film Advent, part of the supplemental content, cranks the horror up even more. David sends a covert transmission to Weyland-Yutani, revealing his findings about the engineers, the pathogen, and his masterpiece, the xenomorphs. Coordinates, lab maps, and experimental notes, enough to justify sending a corporate recovery team. But naturally, someone gets infected by an egg, leaving the mission's outcome ambiguous, to say the least. And now we hit the million-credit question. How on Earth, or rather in the void of space, was the USCSS Maginot already transporting multiple alien species? Enter the theories. One posits that the Maginot mission could have been initiated around 2050, roughly 65 years prior to the events in Alien Earth. Back then, Weyland and Yutani were still separate entities, and officially, nobody knew anything about the engineers, the black pathogen, or the looming terror in Zeta Reticuli. Yet, as we've learned from decades of franchise lore, secrecy, greed, and human hubris have a long reach, and Weyland-Yutani had both in spades.
The first theory I want to throw at you completely flips the usual Maginot narrative on its head. Picture this. Contrary to what most fans assume, the ship's initial mission had absolutely zero, nada, zilch, to do with hunting or capturing alien life forms. Nope. Not a day xenomorphs, no secret retrieval ops, not even a hint of let's bring back a deadly monster. Instead, according to this hypothesis, the Maginot began its journey as a full-scale, high-risk mining expedition. Think Nostromo, yes, but on steroids. Far longer, exponentially more complicated, and infinitely riskier because it was happening on a planet so remote, it might as well have had its own zip code. Can you imagine the commute? Months in cryo-sleep just to mine exotic minerals and maybe stumble across some weird alien fungus? Not exactly the glamorous life advertised in the recruitment pamphlets, huh? In this first phase, everything was under Yutani Corporation's control. Weyland hadn't yet shown up. His obsession with immortality, the engineers, and genetic weapons was still simmering in the background. The crew thought they were just another mining team armed with standard issue equipment, ready to collect rare ores and maybe write home about it someday. But here's the plot twist that slaps you across the face. Everything changed after the infamous transmission from David landed in Yutani's inbox. Suddenly, the mission was completely rewired. The Maginot wasn't just a mining vessel anymore. It became a high-stakes, full-blown retrieval operation. Yeah! Imagine the boardroom scene. Executives huddled over David's detailed logs, planetary coordinates, and lab maps, rubbing their hands together like villains in a sci-fi soap opera. Every alien specimen, every scrap of genetic data, every trace of David's twisted experiments suddenly became prime corporate assets, ripe for exploitation. The crew, now fully aware of the insane risks, but seduced by the promise of unimaginable rewards, signed on anyway. Specialized gear? Check. Plans for handling unknown biological threats? Probably written in fine print somewhere. Visions of staggering wealth and career-defining glory? Oh, definitely. Did they know the real odds of survival? Deep down, maybe. Oof. Brutal, right? This wasn't just a job, it was a life and death lottery with cosmic stakes.
Now, theory number 2 takes a slightly different tack, though it still leans heavily on David's intel. In this scenario, Weyland-Yutani decides to bypass Planet 4 entirely. Forget the black pathogen, forget the decimated engineer civilization. Let's go somewhere else. They send the Maginot toward other moons in the Kalpamos system. Lore nerd bonus, besides LV-223, where Prometheus went belly up, there's LV-426, of course, and another barely mentioned satellite that's been hiding in plain sight across the franchise timeline. According to this hypothesis, Weyland-Yutani figured out that LV-426 was a barren, resource-poor wasteland, zero potential. So they redirected the Maginot to the other moon, a place that turns out to be a bona fide biological playground, alien flora, bizarre ecosystems, and yes, the dreaded Xenomorphs. Cue the shivers. Could it be that the engineers deliberately planted this world as a genetic testing ground, then left it to evolve unchecked, just to see what would happen? Creepy, right? Mad scientist level creepy. From this moon, the specimens that ended up on the Maginot could very plausibly have originated. And honestly, this theory doesn't feel far-fetched at all. Remember how Weyland-Yutani manipulated the Nostromo crew with a fake distress signal to LV-426? If they could pull off something that audacious with one crew, why not do it again with the Maginot? Probably handed them exactly the gear needed to track and secure the creatures, sweetening the deal with astronomical financial incentives. Personally, I'm leaning heavily toward this second theory. In the series, the android Morrow tells Miss Yutani that capturing these beings was the job of his life. That statement isn't just drama. It underlines how ridiculously difficult it was to track and secure these creatures across the remote, unforgiving moons of Kalpamos. That aligns far better with the idea of the Maginot hopping across satellites than a simple short return trip to Planet 4. Plus, it elegantly explains why classic xenomorphs behave and look so different from David's protomorphs. Classic xenos? Cold, efficient, biomechanical predators. Calculated, patient. They set traps, bide their time, and strike with surgical precision. Protomorphs and neomorphs? Chaotic, impulsive, driven by raw rage and instinct. Yeah, you don't want them as roommates.
Another angle to consider is the sheer duration of the mission. Even with faster-than-light travel operational since Covenant, the Maginot's journey still took ages, months, maybe years in deep space. Crew members signing up for that nightmare essentially sacrificed any semblance of a normal life. Goodbye friends, family, holidays, and probably your sanity. Or worse. Weyland-Yutani may have had such tight control over the mission that the crew had zero options to divert or abandon course. Yeah, corporate creep-level nightmare. Whichever way you slice it, these two theories aim to explain how the corporation snagged xenomorph specimens decades before the events of the original Alien films. And honestly, it's one of the most tantalizing, spine-tingling mysteries in the entire universe of Alien. From day one, the company knew way more than they let on, and their obsession with xenomorphs was never just scientific curiosity. On one hand, they were chasing the impossible, immortality through these creatures. On the other, they were fantasizing about turning them into unstoppable biological weapons. And let's not forget what the extended media, comics, novels, and the Alien RPG reveal. The company didn't just crave xenomorphs. Oh no, they coveted the black pathogen itself, intending to wipe out colonies deemed unprofitable, reshaping the galaxy in their cold, corporate image. Creepy? Absolutely. Canonically Weyland-Yutani? You bet. In short, Alien Earth weaves all these threats together seamlessly. David's grotesque experiments, the genetic accelerator, the company's unhealthy obsession with controlling what they cannot understand, and the chilling inevitability of corporate greed. The idea that any of this just happened by accident, highly unlikely. So now, I want to turn the mic to you. Did you know about these theories regarding how Weyland-Yutani got their hands on xenomorphs? Which one of these explanations feels more plausible to you? And do you think the ultimate origin of the xenomorphs will ever be officially revealed? Or is it destined to remain one of those franchise-spanning, deliciously terrifying mysteries forever? Drop your thoughts in the comments, share your fan theories, and let's geek out together over Weyland-Yutani's monstrous ambitions. And hey, thanks for sticking with me this far. If you enjoyed this deep dive, smash that like button, share with fellow fans, and of course, subscribe so you don't miss the next journey into the dark corners of the Alien universe. Yeah!